one's pretty straightforward compared to the multitude of other ones that we've done. Given that, so you'll see on the back of your analysis and write-up sheet what we expect. So for this one, it's going to be a short research paper rather than our full lab report, full 8 pages. It should only be up to 5 pages, including the one chart. So you can report this, but put that in your appendix, so put that at the end. So give us all those values, but don't necessarily include that in your actual report. You can reference it, but have that be the last page of your report or whatever, Appendix A, Appendix B, whatever, okay? Again, introduction, so I believe it says that you should have at least 3 outside sources for literature cited. So that means going and finding 3 gut papers that are relatively meaningful to what you're studying. If you Google Scholar search J.S. Brown or Joel S. Brown and GUDS, you'll have up to your ears in papers. The first paper that you guys may want to look at, I can't remember the journal, but it's Joel Brown, 1988. And that's his first GUD paper. And so that kind of explains the idea behind GUDS, the idea of like more or less modeling foraging theory in a very small experimental design. So that would probably be a good one to look at. As far as sparrows specifically, I'm sure somebody's probably looked at sparrows specifically and at cottontail specifically, but if you can't find that information, generalize. So if you're doing sparrows, you might want to do bird GUDS and find a similar bird that has been studied. Okay, if you're doing cottontail bunnies and there's no other bunny species that's been looked at, you might want to find another prey species, because in theory they're going to be maybe behaving pretty similarly, okay? So if you don't find your specific species, that's fine, but make sure that you can kind of tie in the principles and what those papers are looking at and how they analyze their data and whatnot, okay? And I believe Eric discussed with you about having the really broad ideas and then having your hypotheses at the end. Do the same thing for this report. Materials and methods. So this is where you want to include how many times you went out there, what you did as far as collecting your data, where you placed your trays, that type of thing. Results. So include your graph here, include how you did your ANOVA, okay? So again, with your lab reports as well, if you're doing a chi-square test, which chi-square test? If you're doing a chi-square test, we use master stats, so you want to include how you did your chi-square test, okay? So here, we used Excel to create a 2-way ANOVA, all right? Let's see. Discuss your results, discuss what they mean, so discuss your p-values, all that stuff. Discussion, again, discuss your results, what do they mean, how do they relate to the stuff that you learned in class. Main conclusions, what did you learn about the rabbits and the sparrows, blah, 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 blah. Literature cited, have at least 3 instead of 5. Make sure that they're in the ecology format, so the same format you used for assignment 2. We want it in that format. And make sure it's alphabetical. Make sure that you're citing them in the text, but everybody that I've looked at as far as lab reports, that hasn't really been a problem. Again, when you're citing stuff in text, you want the last name of the first author, and then parenthesis year. If it's several authors, you'll have the last name of the first author, et al., comma, year, etc. Okay? You don't need an abstract, but make sure you have a title that tells us about your paper, okay? Even though you guys have worked on this and shared raw data, each report has to be your own. We don't want 3 reports the same. Please provide us each with a copy of your raw data. So if you want to just write it down and then make 3 copies, that's fine. But we want to see what days you were out there, what your results were, what your guds were, etc. Include the names of your lab members in this as well. And so here we want a hard copy for class. So when you turn this in, a hard copy for class. We want you to send your report in a Word file to either I or Eric, depending on what species that you looked at. And then we will again post your safe assignment. Okay? This is due June 7th, next Thursday. Okay? We will not be able to get comments back to you guys about this. So you can ask questions about how to set it up and whatnot, but as far as sending us drafts, we're not going to have time after trying to grade all your other lab reports and all your other quizzes and whatnot to actually send you good comments back. Okay? So that's your final draft. If you have questions, go ahead and email us, ask us. But that will be your final draft. Any questions? Yeah.
For safe assign, is it due at 9 a.m. as well on June 7th?
Yes. So that will be, it'll be due 9 a.m. that day.
Okay.
Right? Any other questions?